The only thing it doesn't cover is if you're buying, it all applies. Welcome back, folks. I'm Ronnie.
And I'm Ronald.
And this is the Ron's World. And thank you so much to our subscribers. We really appreciate it. If you haven't done so, do it below. Today we have a really special episode for you. We are going to be talking about tips for buying a car. Ronald, what do you think?
Yeah, Ronnie, this is a great topic. Buying a car is one of the biggest investments that someone's ever made. It's normally the first large investment that someone makes. So you got to put a lot of thought into this and do your research. So the first thing I say is figure out how much you can afford. Get your budget set. That's the first tip I give. What do you give, Ronnie?
It's a great point. And you know what? To take that a step further, what Ronald said, not only what you can afford, but decide on how you're going to buy it. So if you're going to finance it, don't negotiate payment. Start with the price. And then what you do is you work down to the payment you can afford, because it's really easy for you to get taken advantage of if you negotiate only on the payment side of things.
Yeah, great point. So if you look at it too from what you can get from your money. So you have your budget, you've kind of figured out how to negotiate the price on this thing. Well, my first priority is safety. Figure out all the safety features and your risk tolerance to that. I mean, if you buy a car that's really old, likely it's not gonna have all the latest safety features. So if someone just asks me hey, what should I do? I say buy the safest car that you can afford. One of the safety features that I really love nowadays is the auto stop function. Mm-hmm. So when you're going under, it's typically under about 15 miles an hour, the car will automatically stop if it senses a person, a dog, or another car in front of it. And it's easy to get distracted, I get it, but when the car can stop for you, that's one of my favorite safety features right now.
Yeah, my favorite safety feature is that backup camera coupled with the front camera. The backup camera isn't new, but the front camera is. And now you've got, eyes basically where your car can't see, because cars, they have this blind spot, down below, especially if you're, maybe not as tall like some of us. You need that extra effort to be able to see over or see behind. Those are some important safety features, and you can never be too safe.
Another thing that newer cars have are this lane change assist. Yes. I don't know if you've noticed that there's some cars that'll actually give you a little nudge if you're getting close to one of the lines on the side of the road, unless you have your turn signal on. And that's a great feature because it reminds you that you've got to correct that maybe you're veering off to the side. Some even have a sound that goes off or a light or something like that. A great feature.
One thing that I think a lot of people don't understand is the buying cycles. So when is the best time to buy a car? Well, think of it as the end of a cycle, like the end of a month. That's a great time. End of a quarter, even better time. End of the year, the best time to buy a car, because they want to move those out to make way for the new ones coming in.
Yeah, anybody who knows Ronnie and Ronald, we love cars. So we're into cars that are economical or sports cars or off-roading cars. And if you can afford it, you might be able to splurge a little bit and get a car that maybe speaks to your personality. Do you want to be that kind of rough and tumble, and so you're driving a Jeep around, or you want kind of a sleek sports car or something like that? Because cars also are kind of like fashion, almost like a type of clothing, but keep that in mind that you're actually having to wear those clothes normally for many years. It's such a big investment. Typically, you've got to drive those things for a really long period of time to get your money's worth.
Yeah. Now, unlike my wife, you only need one car. You don't need multiple cars to go with different outfits. One car should suffice for it. Another thing that you need to think about is salespeople. So salespeople work off of a quota. And so what you want to try to do is find that end of the month time when that salesperson is looking really a little bit desperate, because they're going to go help you negotiate the best deal because they have a quota to hit.
Yeah, and be prepared. Before that end of the month comes along, do your research, spend your time, go online, read all the blogs about the different cars you like, and pick a few different types, because from the outside, it's a lot different than when you get in the car and drive it. So you've done your research, you looked on the websites like Auto Trader and KBB and Edmunds, and there's a number of them. Just to search online for these websites. And when you get to the dealership, the price range too, because those websites will tell you what is that range of prices, and it'll tell you all the features, because maybe some of these features you don't even need. Why pay for them? So, and then you get in the car, test drive it, because the way they drive can be completely different than how they look.
Yeah, this is a great point. Now, something that you have to remember, do not get emotionally attached to that car until you have bought it. You have to have the ability to get up and walk away. You know how this works. You get into the negotiation, they go bring the manager over, they start going back and forth haggling the deal, and you get close but not there, stand up and walk away. Just don't get emotionally attached until you've signed on that dotted line.
It's so true. The thing that I always say in my mind when I'm sitting there is there's always another car. Don't get hooked on that thing so you don't make a decision that you might come to regret. Because you want to come out of there going, yeah, I paid a fair price for that.
Yeah, another really great tip, and if you don't have to have the latest and greatest, if the body style of a car is about to change, when that new body style hits the lot, they're still gonna have an inventory of that old body style in there. If you're willing to buy that last year body style, I'm telling you, you're gonna get a great deal.
Some people, like my wife, that drives her crazy. Like, she buys a car and next year they change the body style and she sees the new body style, it drives her crazy. And I know some of our audience is that way. Well, you just have to think about it in terms of budget terms and your timing. If you've got a car that works for you and you're willing to wait, but once again, do your research, because then you'll find out when that next body style comes out so that you can choose, do you want to get the best deal by buying the current body style or wait and get the next one, which will be probably around for a few years. Another thing you need to consider is, do you get a new car or do you get a used car? And one thing I like to tell people is that used cars actually can be better than new in a lot of ways, because after you've driven the car for a while, you can kind of figure out if there's any issues. And they also have services that certify cars and give you feedback if that particular car had any major issues. So you can actually save money and get more value if you look for a used car, particularly one-owner cars, because if one owner is driven it, the first owner of a car takes care of the car. That's just human nature, that the first owner of a car takes care of it best. So if you can find a one-owner car that's been certified with no accidents, no major issues, you're gonna get much more value for your money.
All right, so key things when buying a car. No matter if you're gonna buy it, lease it, finance it, it doesn't matter. You always start with the price. Negotiate a price that you feel is fair. Then from there, negotiate the term. How long do you want to lease it? How long do you want to finance it? And then from there, you get to the payments based upon those numbers. What people often fall in the trap of is they negotiate a payment, and then what ends up happening is the dealer will add on a year or even 2 years to be able to get down to the payment that you want. If you can't afford that car at the price that's fair, it's not worth the payment. Find a less expensive car.
In addition to the price and also the monthly payment, you got to figure out like what's creating that monthly payment. And what it comes down to is interest. And essentially the money on the money that you're borrowing to pay for the car. And that interest rate is critical. So you've got to know what the interest rate is, because if it's a high interest rate, over time you could end up spending twice as much to buy that car than you could have just paying cash up front. And I know not everybody is in the position to pay cash up front for a car, but if you have a low enough interest rate, and that typically ranges in the 4 to 6% range. If it ends up in a 4 to 6% range, you're probably gonna be okay. And another thing that people don't realize with automobile leases, there's actually an interest rate, an effective interest rate that's built in. So knowing what that range is as well is really important.
100%. Yeah, these are great points. And listen, don't buy more than you can afford. Don't get caught up emotionally into it. It's still a depreciating asset, which for those of you that don't know what that means, that's something that loses value the longer you own it. So the moment you drive it off the lot, your car is depreciating and it's worth less than when you bought it.
And what also can happen is you think you've negotiated everything perfectly and you're right there, and then all of a sudden there's other things you can add on to the car. You've got to be, once again, mentally and emotionally prepared for that. Know what the add-ons could be, because you might actually want to buy some of these things. Maybe you want the special protectant for your seats or the special protectant for your paint,
or
because
the aftermarket warranty.
Oh, the aftermarket. There's some good value in some of those things. And sure, the dealer and the manufacturer might make good money on those. That's okay if it brings you value. But some of these things, you really don't need or want. But that's up to you to decide. That's why you got to do your homework, know what's a fair price for these add-ons, so when they spring them on you, it's not an emotional decision, like you're just trying to get out of there because you're tired of dealing with the dealership.
And we want to hear from you. If you've had an experience recently, leave your comments down below. If you've got other tips for our audience, leave those down below as well. We want to hear what you've done to buy a car successfully. I'm Ronnie.
And I'm Ronald.
We'll see you next week.